Howdy folks, this morning soap on a Sunday morning. It's called Vitos. Now this particular soap sample, I didn't check it out when I first got it, but when I got ready to whip it up this morning, it's like hard as a rock. So it took a little bit of effort to get it in the bowl whipped up, but it does whip up just fine. You're gonna have to add some water if you ever get one that's like this that might be a little bit on the dried out side. That's what it looks like there. Got it whipped up with a brush from Maggard's. This one here is a bronze color, but it whipped up okay. It just, it was just hard as a rock. it just it was kind of surprising. It's probably the hardest soap I've had to deal with. I mean, it was really hard, but once you add some water to it, worked with it, it whips up just fine, but it is hard as a rock. We're going to be following the shave up today with a sample of Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Cella Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and slide this out of the package. There we go. Yeah, I don't have to mess with that later. And the shaver of the day is a Gem Micromatic. This one here is an open comb version. And if you have never seen the twist open action on this, I'm trying to make sure I got this in the frame there. I've got a Gem PTFE. It's a Teflon coated blade. Pretty cool shaver. And I got it, it came in a case. This is the case that it came in. And it's got the, hopefully I don't drop this thing. It's got the two boxes there, one for the new blades and one for the old blades. But it's pretty cool case. For me, I enjoy the cases. Case is what kind of adds to the history of the shave. I already put a hot towel to the face this morning, and I'm going to be using the Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Ice Cube. In other words, it's unscented, but it is mentholated. I'm going to go ahead and start with this pre-shave soap here, but it was quite a challenge. I mean, that soap was hard, and so when you this bowl is a Sarabachi bowl, so it's got grooves in it, but those grooves are well rounded, and so it was taking a little bit of work to grind it down in there, and then adding water to it, and kept on working with it, and it wasn't too terribly bad. But I have to say, once you got past the point of it being hard, it whipped up pretty good. I would just like to get some soap that's not hard, which also brings up the other thing that has kind of crossed my mind, because I don't know, but it seemed like when I was looking for this, it was, in other words, a full-size container, which is a brick, from what I understand, and not the easiest to find. And then when you do find it, of course, it's not a location where the shipping is too terribly friendly for that kind of soap. I think it's like a couple of pounds or something else, where I can't remember how big it is. But it's a pretty good sized chunk of soap, and usually the shipping is around the, I think, $8-9 mark or something like that, just for the soap. So it is something that you have to consider. So I would start with a sample, and this particular sample I got came by the way of crematorium. So if you're interested in trying a sample of it, it may be softer than what I got, or it could be just as hard. But it is doable, as you can see. It just took a little bit of work. And believe it or not, the whole sample is not in the bowl like I've been using in the past with samples this size. This one here, I guess maybe half of it. It whips up pretty good. That's the part I have to say that I can't complain about, is that how it whipped up was pretty darn nice. And even when I go to rinse my hands, how nice it felt in the fingers. That was it. How you say? It was impressive, considering that started out a hunk of rock. Now, if you haven't shaved with one of these shavers, or unfamiliar with this particular single edge, it is an old shaver. I think the patents came around 1929, going into 1930, something like that. The shaver's been around for a good long moment, and there's hordes of them out there. This particular one here is an open comb. There's one with a safety bar, and that safety bar, there's one that's got a safety bar that's clog proof, and there's another one that I guess you might say one of the last ones they made was the flying wing, or also known as a bullet tip. And it might, excuse me, it might depend on what you're used to shaving with. Some may consider this one here the smoother of the shavers of the three. For me, the flying wing, the bullet tip one, I get pretty good shaves with it. It's pretty smooth. But the clog proof, on the other hand, is a bit more aggressive. At least that's my experience with them. I have found a couple of blades that work well for me. This blade here, and usually I'll put a link down below. There's different places where you can find these, but if you're only looking like maybe a handful of them, sometimes Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements will have them. Might try a blade, and Pella. Yes, he's. I'm saying he. I should say that company sells them. I think like 200 at a time. So you might want to try it out first to see what blade works best for you. But the Teflon coated ones to me are the better ones, as well as the other one that I've had really good luck with, and is a Treat Super. Those were the first blades I found that worked well for me before I finally figured out which ones were Teflon coated with gem. Not all the gem blades are Teflon coated, but for me the Teflon coated ones work best for me. Treat Supers come in a cardboard box container, one that you can kind of hang on a hook. That's, I guess, for some folks that might be something to be aware of. For me, it's not an issue. It coming in a cardboard box instead of a plastic dispenser. You can kind of tell this soap I whip up, this lather, is not as wet as I normally would have it. But for me, this is plenty thick enough. It's almost wet. It's really close. I just need to add a little bit more water to it, and it would be there. But for me, these shavers are what I consider engineering marvel, because most of them, a number of people would consider these Micromatics bulletproof. In other words, most of them, even after all this time, still work just fine. Even after all these years. So even if you were to kind of move the time frame up, that some of these might have been available. I think the wing was available around 1940. So you're already talking about, what, 80 years, something of the sort? And they're working quite well. Now, I don't know if I did this in the camera long enough, and it may not show up, but there's going to be a little bit of plating loss on these shavers. As far as I know, every last one of the shavers I've got have never been replated, and so in other words, this is the original plating on these razors that I've got, and goes to talk, really speak to the design and the manufacturing process of the time. Was pretty darn good. But like I said, they made hordes of these, millions of these shavers, so they're readily available. Cases, on the other hand, a little bit different story. This particular case I just showed you is one that will take a little bit more time to hunt down, especially in decent shape with the two little boxes inside that's not busted up or anything of the sort. They also come in rectangle shaped boxes that are bakelite also, and then of course then you got different shapes of the cardboard boxes. One definitely looks older than the other one. There's one box that's kind of a oblong hexagon type looking box. Uh, the box that I got like that, it was in frail shape. Take and consider, these boxes are pretty darn old, and that one there is an older box that I got, and it was, of course, coming apart at the corners. But there's also another one that's a rectangle cardboard box that you might find in better shape. And I've got one, when I got one of these containers, one of these boxes came with the instructions, which I thought was just awesome. The instructions were in great shape. And it just, for me, to have the instructions, see what the thought process was of the time, the marketing idea, for me, the history of the razor, it's just amazing. Now, speaking of history of the razor, I had, through my travels of looking, I found a link, and I'll have it down below, of a particular razor. They were able to track it, I guess you might say, from the time it was purchased till it ended up in the museum, and how it came about. It was one person bought it, gave it to another person. It was a soldier that gave it to another person during World War II, and it was just, the history behind that shaver, just really interesting. I know from time to time, anybody that's interested in using vintage or classic or antique shavers, you always wonder what the story is behind the razor. If it could just tell you all that it's been through, it'd be great to know. In this particular case, this one razor, there is a history and behind it that was able to be tracked, and it had been tracked from the time that it took place. Just a really neat story. But, I like history, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Really smooth shave this morning. Earlier this week, off camera, I shaved with the clog proof, and it is a bit more aggressive. I would say more aggressive than this one. Big difference. But I do enjoy shaving with them. Like I say, the history, the engineering behind it is just unbelievable. They've been around for a good long while. Like I say, there's so many of them out there. They're about like Gillette. In other words, if you wait a little while, you'll find a nice vintage shaver in good shape. Sometimes they get a bit expensive. Just depends on who you're buying them from. You'll see some prices on eBay, in other words, that will go upwards around $50 with a case and that sort of thing. And you might find somebody that will go ahead and replate them for you. From what I've been able to read on replating the Gem Micromatics, they're not an easy one to do. From what I understand, they take also a lot of plating. So to replate one, some people, from what I understand, that do the replating don't really like messing with them, because the amount of effort behind them is quite a bit. Got the Crown King alum block this morning, complete with rubber band. But not everybody enjoys shaving with them. Your blade choices are somewhat limited. Also, due to the fact that you're talking about a gem blade that looks like a paint scraper blade, these blades are somewhat thicker than a DE blade, and the blade feel will be different. So it may take a moment or two for you to get used to the shave feel, as well as maybe learning how to adjust your pressure. Excuse me. So in other words, if your technique's a little bit off with this shaver, don't be surprised. It just takes a little while to make your adjustment. If you've been shaving with a DE for quite a while and not accustomed to using one with a blade like this, but boy, I sure do enjoy them. It did take me a moment when I first used it. It took me a few tries, but hey, once you get used to them, to me it's just that's that idea that you're using something that is as old as this, that's original. that still works just fine, just like it was designed. Oh, by the way, this is the witch hazel that's unscented, that's mentholated. Yeah, ooh and on over the shaver. These three Micromatics have always been one of my favorites once I really started looking into them. Hey, to me, these are fantastic shavers. And if even after you get it and you decide that maybe it's not for you, I would almost say that it would be a good one to hang on to just for the historical part of it. Because they don't make them like this anymore, that's for sure. We'll go ahead and use the Cella Cool. This will be my first time with the Cella Cool. If I can get this open here. There we go. I really like Cella. Cella's a pretty nice soap. I can remember a few years back, Anthony Esposito, the Stallion. Now I got this open. Can't use both hands. At least it's going to be pretty tough. Had mentioned that he thought at that point in time that this was one of the underrated soaps. And of course, that's what prompted me to get it. Yes, talking about a nice cooling effect. And what's it called? Marzipan? I think that's what it is. The almond type scent is definitely present. Definitely got an awesome cooling effect going on right now. Oh, and by the way, these samples, I should mention. I think this sample, if I remember right, was under $2. I think it was on sale. Can't remember for sure. Like I say, I'll have a link down below. And this sample here is $1. That's you have to, for me, getting a sample of an aftershave for $1. I got several samples. Just when it comes to Douglas's samples that he's got going on, the number of different kinds readily available, just awesome. You can go through there and pick all kinds of different, get 10 of them, $10 in other words, and you got 10 different samples, figure out which ones you like. Yes, I can definitely smell the Cella. This is really nice. Almost makes me want to try out the soap now. I had a great shave this morning. I hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and smooth shaves to you.